Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Today is Wednesday, March 11th. We experienced, I believe, a thing that's called a derecho, which is a wind, a strong wind. When years ago, three of my family members were outside, and it was like summertime. My son wanted to sleep out in a tent. Some of my family, we'd sleep out at tents at different times. People would, on our farm. And he was setting up his tent, and like he was holding up the wall, and my ex was outside and I was outside, and this wind passed through, and it got up to 100 miles an hour. It lasted about a minute and it was gone. It was no storm, no anything, just a wind. And it was raining this morning, and I woke up. My wife was already awake, and we'd have tornado possibilities where I live, and the wind often howls here, and it makes this like eerie sound by the front door. But I heard this wind, and I, woke up to it, and it lasted, like I said, a minute. And I knew it was a tornado, and I just, I should have been maybe a little bit more concerned. But I heard the front door open. I thought my wife went out to check with the chickens. We have a sick chicken in the greenhouse or whatever. And but then I got up, and she said she was outside when it hit, and it was like a freight train coming. She was, because she thought it was a tornado. It sounded like a freight train, and then it blew through, and she ran into come inside, and the wind pushed her into the house, she said. So that was kind of interesting, and probably it's raining now. There's some kind of, I felt like the wind that blew, and there was like some kind of spiritual energy behind it when I experienced it before. I was outside for it, like it's almost like a cleansing. But again, just something that passed through. So it's not a tornado or hurricane, it's a derecho, and it's the wind that, like just, I don't know exactly what causes it. But, I thought it was kind of auspicious in some way. I had a good meditation after it. I just woke up, and so it's slowed. I've been kind of groggy in the morning because of the whole thing that I'm going through health-wise. Like I'm kind of amped up, and I'm looking into my adrenal gland. Like I think it might be an adrenal issue. I'm taking a bunch of supplements that are good for the adrenals already, so I don't know. Somebody asked me about showing the medications I'm taking, and I don't take pharmaceutical medications. Somebody else asked me about it. I just don't go to a regular doctor unless it's something that has to be. I've had some good experiences with allopathic medicine, like emergency room stuff, or for like a stitch, you getting stitches or something. But for the most part, no, it's not, like I just have bad experiences with allopathic medicine. And, like I made a commitment, after the COVID thing. I mean, I consider all allopathic medicine. Sometimes you find a healer, like I said, a doctor or a nurse who's a healer. But I don't like that medical model. It doesn't work for me. And, after they COVID me, I've experienced, suffering because of COVID. Like I think everything that's, happened to me over the period of the last 5 years physically, has related to COVID, anything negative. They fucked all of us with that bullshit. So, and they're all part of that club, whether they, I mean, some of them acknowledge it or not, but it's a flawed medical model because it's not about healing or health. It's about money. It's a for-profit medicine, and also about control. So I'm not, my wife and I were like, we're not going to the hospital during COVID, no matter how hard it is for us to breathe. We're not getting hooked up to a fucking respirator, right? That was, again, I'm not advising people. This is just the way it's based on my personal experience. So I was like, and I'm very, medications are very strong, and my system has gotten more sensitive from the meditation over the years. And so I just, supplements and things like that, and, whatever, those that have a very powerful effect on me. And so that's not why I wanted to talk in the introduction. So, I was talking about this thing with Candace Owens and these other truthers, and I got something to show about her again to start off the video. Then stuff a little bit about Erica. She's got a Trump appointment. I'm going to cover that stuff. But what I want to talk about is like people who are out there as truthers, and they're not, they're remedial in their approach, and they're novices, they're beginners. I showed you a young Christian woman who was wearing a Hooters hat and talking about how she was advising other people who just woke up because she was an old soul who really gets it, and she doesn't. Like, she doesn't know shit. She was saying she thinks nukes aren't. I showed you the video. But there are a lot of dumbasses out there who, when it happens with celebrities, I've talked about this over and over again, people who are celebrities or pseudo-celebrities, and they wake up and they come to the truth community and they're immediately given celebrity status, and they're just waking up themselves, or they're just grifting or whatever it is. They're not, grifting and waking up. They're not really ready to talk. Like anybody who was saying Trump was pushing Trump and wasn't confronting his bullshit, or at least acknowledging the possibility of the Ketchup Gate WWE style fake assassination attempt and all this other bullshit. People who aren't calling that shit out, they shouldn't be talking. Like, you shouldn't be talking. Like all these people, Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and all these people that push this. I don't talk about things that I just started. Like I mean, in terms of, like, I don't pretend to be an expert, right? Like, I don't, like I would never talk to you about business. And, the healthcare stuff I talk about is my own experience and things like that. It comes from a place of, I'm not pretending to be a knower, that I'm not offering advice or even, a model or whatever it might be. If it's something that I'm just learning how to do or I'm not really good at. When I first started doing this YouTube channel, my family and I were just learning and transitioning into being homesteaders. And I, made it clear I wasn't an expert homesteader. I was just learning how to do things and talking about that, right? That process, like as a, going from being someone who grew up in the suburbs and, not on a farm and, learning those things and, from that and talking about what we learned and these things, but it wasn't from us, this idea that we're knowers and experts. And these people come out and, they've made huge mistakes while advising people, while, going out and pretending that they're knowers and like people are listening to them like they know shit, and they don't. They're fucking, anybody who, if you come from the perspective of the left-right paradigm where you come in, I just was flicking through the channels and there's that show, Abby something, her name is Phillips, I think, Abby something. And she's very calm woman, and she has this debate show, and she has a couple of Republicans on and 3 Democrats and herself. So it's like the Republicans are a little bit outnumbered. And they have these sort of debates. And, when you engage in this idea that the left is the enemy or the right is the enemy, you have no credibility as a person. Like you're not no matter where you are, no how good you are at that, you're not anyway close to being a truther. Like you're just engaging in the system, the way it's constructed, the way that they want you to engage. That there's a binary system and they want you to pick one side or the other. And they want you to, get into these ridiculous conversations and debates and things like that have no, I mean, why argue? Like I don't argue. Like I have no reason to argue, right? Like it just, people say they wanted to debate me or saying, why would I don't want to listen to your bullshit opinion. I wouldn't want to listen to you. Like it's people want to be listened to, right? They want to force you to listen to them, right? And in most cases, probably almost every case, it's like me listening to a toddler to talk about toddler shit. In fact, when I turn, these things on, it's about that. And so, the things that I'm good at and, understanding this pattern recognition and things, the meditation, I mean, no one's an expert in spirituality. Like you could be way ahead of other people, but you always have to become you approach it like a newborn baby, in a sense of God, in a sense of wonderment. Like that's how you have to approach spirituality. Like these religions and these, these bullshit things that they're false, but even if they were good, they're just scratching this. They're like kindergarten. They're less than kindergarten. They're not even, most of the time, their religions are not even, nursery school. You haven't started your education. You haven't started your experience. You're learning about starting your experience. When you're in a religion, you're learning about maybe someday becoming a spiritual person. Like so, and then once you're on you're on that first rung or first step, then you've started to interact with God to some extent, and it's like, it's a very exciting time. It should be. It's a very, a lot of energy, but you're not anywhere near to being an expert, and you can, talk about that process. You can talk about what you're going through, but you're not there to advise people. You're not, and even if you've been doing it for years and lifetimes, and you're far more advanced than the average human being, you're still a novice. You're still, there's always you're always supposed to approach God in that way, like in a way that you don't know anything, like you're just learning. And with each stage you go through, there's an introductory phase to that new level that you're on, and it's always a sense of wonderment. It's always, there's always a sense of awe, right? And then when you establish yourself in that new phase a little bit, you look back, at the old phase, you're like, oh, I didn't know shit before. I look back at the time that I was a young person, I was just a dummy, like just all the things and missed opportunities. And that's why I always say the youth is wasted on the young, right? It's, and then as you get older, you realize the error of your ways, right? And like I said, I just kind of understand how to be a human being now, and I'm, entering the death part. It's just too fast. I mean, human life is, our lives have been sped up. I've talked about that. We should live much longer period of time, and that would, give us the opportunity to have a true spiritual experience where we've already done all those other things, right? Like long after we've raised our kids and had a career in these things. And so, there's a period, but like there's a lot of people out there that are talking like they're knowers and they don't know shit. And they don't even know they don't know shit, right? And anybody, like I said, if you're engaged in the left-right paradigm, you're not a truther. Like, you're not a fucking truther. You're not awake. If you think the Democrats are the problem, you think Trump is the solution, or even, something around that, then you shouldn't be talking like this. I'm talking about Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. At least Tucker Carlson looks depressed. But and you're lying. You're perpetuating the bullshit narrative. And if you come out of that and you realize, oh, that was false, then you would take a step back and not, Candace Owens got millions of people that watch her on a daily basis, and she fucking sucks. I mean, she's not a truther. She's not awake. She's not any of these things. She just has a new, group of enemies. Like, it's always her against somebody, and it's always, whatever. Like, it's just some binary thing that she's doing, trying to expose the truth. Now it's Erica Kirk, this kind of thing. It's just always, whatever. It's then they're attacking her, and she's like all this drama and all this bullshit. The fucking desperate housewives for like truthers, and like they all fucking lap it up, these dumb fucks, because that's all they can do. The human race is just, remedial. But like, you have to understand where you are when you're presenting information. If you're a newbie to the truth community and you want to talk about your experiences and come from a perspective of being a newbie, that's great. Do that. But don't pretend like you're knowers. You had all these fucking QBs run around, the flat earthers and all these dumb fucks, and thinking they were knowers and, whatever. The arrogance of the thing, right? It's like you're just learning, like you've been lied to your whole life. You've been indoctrinated, and you're just trying to process that and then, become somebody who understands, the reality and truth to whatever extent. If you don't confront your religion, which is your number one fucking indoctrination, then you're nothing. Like you haven't even started yet. Like you're not there. You're not even, on the path. And so, that's what I reference. So anyways, let's get into it here. Okay, got a bunch of stuff to get to. I've already done the video here. It's a lot of things, but I can't even name them all. But the wind, and I haven't confirmed it's a derecho yet. But the wind knocked down our tree, broke our fence, and here I got some video about that. This is the fence. So we have this derecho here.
and our fence line, and this fucking tree broke off here. Went through our fence. There's a branch up here that's down over here, and then this fucking nightmare broke off from the tree up there. We just went through this whole fence area. I just made this path here, and I got to deal with this now. We don't use this fence, but still, I got to at least clear this path off. I got to deal with that branch up top too, so this is gonna be a fucking chore. That's how strong the wind was. There's branches over there. There's a tree over there on our neighbor's property. It's broken down. There's little branches everywhere over here. So, all right. And I'm on the other side of this thing, and our bees are right over here. They're not out today, probably. Maybe they are. I don't know. It's very windy still. Not crazy wind. It's pretty warm though, so they're probably out. And that branch there. So this branch right here is coming down. I gotta do all this stuff. It's not gonna be fun for me. I'm getting this stuff out. This one's hanging up in this tree here. It's falling down this tree. I don't even know how to go about cutting this one down. Fucking nightmare. All right. Okay, so here's the fence damage. Just pain in the ass. I mean, just a very powerful way to... I want to get into the other stuff. I'm going to talk about this at the end, the voiceover, a little bit, but let's get to the core of the video here. So this video popped up like 4 times. I didn't click on it because, you know, I was not wanting to hear Candace Owens' voice. I don't want to watch her. Like, it's just, you know. I thankfully have passed that phase of having to cover her and Kirk. Kirk's a little bit easier because she doesn't stalk anymore. She's in hiding. You know, other than just little updates, but I don't make whole videos about this. But this is, it says, my message to the troops. Why the fuck are you giving a message to the troops? You know, who are you to give a fucking message to the troops, right? So she says this.
Real.
Let's start over here.
No American son or daughter should die for Israel. Flat out. No.
Flat out. Okay, knower. Okay, you big knower. You're a good knower. You know a lot of things, you knower.
American son or daughter should die for Israel. Goyim, stand down. Go home. Find the legal means to exit the military, because there are legal means.
Okay, like that's just complete horseshit. You think these kids, these kids, you're talking to like 18, 20, 19-year-old kids who have just been indoctrinated with a very heavy mind control program. And many of them are sitting there somewhere in the Middle East right now. And you expect them to find the money and the means to get lawyers to get them out of the fucking military? You're too fucking late, right? Candace, late to the fucking party, Owens. This is what I was talking about. Like, if you were going to say this, you don't say this to people who, they have to keep themselves alive. You don't say this to young people that, would get access to this over there and have them, go into this situation with doubt. You don't want to they have no means to get the fuck out of the military. How are they going to get back home? How are they going to get back over for the fucking Middle East, right? How the fuck are they going to do that, right? Like, that's just, you're 5 years, you should have spoke up when you were supporting Trump and you didn't call bullshit on his fake assassination attempt and, stop him from doing all that shit. Instead of they're always after me against the Zionist, me against TPUSK, me against, they're always attacking me. Like that bullshit that you do. You can't undermine their, if they're in there, they're in there. Like, they can't hear this shit. Right? They're not, it's like going into anything, you have to be all in, especially like a war type situation. And, you're not helping them. You could have helped them years ago, even before this. You could have called this out before when he started deploying the troops. But you were asking them to desert, which is, it's a severe crime. And so, like, this is, again, you could have said this 2 years ago when you woke up or whatever it was. To Zionism, when you finally got to where the rest of us had been for many, many years. You could have said it then don't enlist in the military. Like, you're going to fight, these wars are for Israel. But when it's already fucking, the war's already started, you're going to say this shit, like fucking, that's totally irresponsible, and you're just like fucking piece of shit. Like, you're too late. You're fucking too late.
You can exit the military. You can, in fact, conscientiously object to military service. Military men, in case you didn't know, swear an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America.
Okay, so I just can't listen to her. Like, fucking, this is, you're asking these kids to do something they're not capable of doing. And it's a whole nother fucking can of worms, and like the whole thing. And so, it's just blathering. Just like idiocracy. Let's go. I want to talk about the Gulf of Hormuz. Like, that's kind of the most important thing I want to get to today, because I saw something yesterday on that. Let's do the other things here first, and then we'll come back to that. But I mean, she just sucks. She's like the fucking worst. So to go with the Candace Owens, here's her looking like, look at her look up to Charlie. Look, Charlie, I'm looking up in heaven, and I'm going to see you. I don't want you to get mad at me for participating in your demise. Trump names Erica Kirk to key advisory board of U.S. Air Force Academy. Widowed of murdered right-wing activist Charlie Kirk replaced his husband on a 16-member panel of military training facility. This is nothing. Like, she sucks and Trump sucks, and like, he doesn't have real. He's replaced everybody. So there's a story about the basketball player Kawhi Leonard, and they have a very strict policy in the NBA of a salary cap. Like, your team can only pay out so much money in salary, right? And there's also a cap on how much a player can make, a max salary, based on statistical, requirements. Like a person can get a super max if they're on all NBA teams, things like this, right? This is, it's a way to keep the larger market teams with richer owners from buying titles, like have an unfair advantage because they can pay players more and all these things. And Steve Ballmer, the Bill Gates' ex-partner, owns the Los Angeles Clippers. And so Steve Ballmer donated a shit ton of money to a fake shell company that was already under investigation by was collapsing. And they paid Kawhi Leonard money, their basketball player, on top of his salary for doing nothing. He had no responsibilities. He was paid as a spokesperson, but he didn't. He's an introvert, and and his uncle had asked for the very same deal from the Toronto Raptors, who he was playing for, before he got this deal from the Clippers, right? So it's pretty much a slam dunk. The commissioner was meeting with the Donald Trump the other day, and the guy who broke the story, I saw something, so I clicked on it, and this is why I'm telling you this. He went to, he's doing research on this company, and some of these things were divulged by people who work for the company. Like, they cut deals and they ratted out the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard. But he went to these federal agencies, the SEC, and these agencies that are there to deal with financial crimes. As a non-truther, guy who's just a sports reporter, and he said that Trump has gutted these agencies so bad, these financial crime agencies, and that nobody, it's like a ghost town in there, and these investigations have all been, you can't find the information. It's just all like fucking a mess, right? Because Trump is, him and Elon Musk, that was some of the stuff they were doing, because Trump's a financial criminal, and he's got a lot of buddies who are financial criminals, and now there's no fucking SEC. There's no, these federal agencies are no longer functioning. The guy he's not a truther, and he's discovered this, right? Trump has incompetent people. And to go back to this thing with Erica Kirk, and so here's another thing here. Oh, that's not is it this thing? Yeah. Trump has appointed Erica Kirk to help advise the Defense Department on issues affecting the academy. We're in hell. Well, we're not, because, this isn't anything different than Trump's done before. And so, this thing with her and Candace Owens, you're defined by your enemy. Like Candace Owens and Erica Kirk on the same level. You might like it. You might like Candace Owens more because, she's exposing the TPUS gay, but she was a part of that. She's not, she's the bitter, she's the one who's been kicked to the curb, and then she's finally getting her revenge. I think her latest, I got to go to her latest video here in a second. That was something else I want to cover, just the title alone. So, but this is like this whole thing I'm talking about. Like there's just, when you're locked into a situation with some other person, you're defined by your enemy. The hero's defined by the villain. When it's a binary thing. Like you're supposed to be elevated beyond it, right? You're above the conflict or whatever. You're not you don't pick up the rope. You're not engaged with these other people. It's essential to kind of understand that. But anyways, so I saw this title yesterday. Did Erica know Jeffrey Epstein? Did Erica Kirk know Jeffrey Epstein? Operation Epstein Fury. And then look at her expression there in the thumbnail. What are you talking about? Like this is, maybe she did, but like, and there's that thing in Romania which she's covered. She's late to the party on that. All these things. She's like pretending she's doing a deep dive. Yeah, Erica Kirk sucks. Erica Kirk is probably, at least she's involved in Charlie Kirk's murder. And she was his handler, and who knows what about their relationship and what's that about. Charlie Kirk also sucked more than Erica because he, in terms of, Candace Owens saying this stuff, don't fight wars for Israel. Charlie Kirk was encouraging young people to do the Shabbat Shalom bullshit. He's the one. It's not Erica like that. That was a Charlie Kirk thing, and he was encouraging these young men to embrace Israel, and he believed in the biblical land rights, as he called it, or something like that. When he was he was talking to Megyn Kelly. So Charlie Kirk was a piece of shit. Like he encouraged these young people. He was a pro-military person. He was encouraging young people to join the military. He wasn't in the military, but he was encouraging them. He was a part of this military board. He could have prevented these guys for dying for Israel, but he was taking fucking shekels, and so was Candace Owens. So she was a part of that thing. DPUS gay was growing because of the shekel taking, right? It wasn't because they were great. And so, these are all pieces of shit, right? Like, stop pretending you're not. Like, take responsibility for your stuff. I mean, this whole thing. Like, Erica Kirk, it is not a Jeffrey Epstein, all the people, Donald Trump being the number one, that are, that should be under the radar for Jeffrey Epstein. Erica Kirk sucks for her own reasons. But she's not, she wasn't Jeffrey Epstein. They maybe met, and maybe they knew each other. Like, that's just, it's a bullshit fucking, clickbait thing for your dumb fuck audience, right? Gavin Newsom, Kristi Noem nod silently to each other in the plastic surgeon's office. That's a great meme. And this, unfucking believable, according to nuclear experts, Donald Trump's justification to going to war with Iran was all a lie perpetrated by Jared Kushner. Nuclear experts are calling out lies by Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff. Trump has credited them in recent, we've talked about them recently. Regarding Iran's research reactor starting facility lacked the capabilities they described. Experts indicated that Tehran research reactor, a 60-year-old facility, was not designed to enrich uranium, as was suggested by Kushner and Witkoff. This little devil boy, right? He bought the Park Avenue 666, right? Like he bought it. And so it's at Fifth Avenue 666. It's Fifth Avenue. And there's a TV show called Park Avenue 666. But he bought a building, 666 building on Fifth Avenue. He's a little fucking devil boy. Little antichrist motherfucker, right? He's married to Trump's favorite daughter, in air quotes, Ivanka. So there's that. Okay, the Strait of Hormuz thing is happening, and that's the main story thing today. And I'm going to show you, I just ate breakfast. I'll talk about that in a moment. I saw more. I watched the news about it. So this is a tweet that was recommended to me by Twitter, and I covered in an earlier video. Zionists are having a meltdown about what I said yesterday. So let me reiterate: do not sign up for continued or continue to fight for U.S. military. This war is on behalf of satanic pedophiles. Find the legal means to exit the military. Do not fight for child rapists. Come home. Now, she's not doing this for the military. She's doing this for this. Zionists are having a meltdown. She's provoking them. She knew that if she said this, that it would cause a reaction. Because she says things, she's Alex Jones, like she is the new Alex Jones. She says things that are outlandish. She's a QAnon people that would say crazy shit, unfounded shit, stuff like Erica Kirk. Did Erica Kirk know Jeffrey Epstein? Like weird shit like that, right? Like, Mitch Snow stuff, bringing people who are not credible to, smear other people, all the shit that she's done. Because that's what she is. She's doing this to get a reaction. She knows the military. She has to know these young military men are not going to find a way to get out of the military, right? And that would be disastrous for them to do that in any possible way. They'd be labeled as traitors, and then all the people, they're part of a brotherhood, right? They're part of the military community. They're indoctrinated, and I'm not a pro-military, all that shit, but that's their world, that's their life, their families and friends, all these things. They'd have to. I mean, if their families and friends were all about this, and that'd be one thing, but they're not going to be they're not going to agree with this. All these Republicans are endorsing this war, right? So they're not going to do that. There's not going to be one person that leaves the military. I mean, we saw that guy who broke his arm and protest that thing. That's more legitimate, and that's totally I mean, it's a real thing with Candace Owens is just saying stuff to provoke the Zionists so that they could react, and she could act like a victim. Like she can get her attention, right? She can make it about her, right? And so, and her saying this, do not sign up. Like, who the fuck are you to tell people what to do, right? Control your own bullshit life, your own fucking shilling, your own fucking bullshit stuff with Charlie Kirk and all the shit that you did that's created this. You work for Ben Shapiro, you fucking cunt, right? So, this is not, and you're jumping on something that, you're late to the party, and then you're, everybody look at me, I'm at the party. Yeah, well, your fucking party's over. It's been over fucking for years. We're already past this. And so, this is what I mean by all the stuff I said earlier. It's just self-promoting. It's not, it has nothing to do with the truth. It has nothing to do with any of these things other than, hey, everybody look at me. We have enough everybody look at me people. The world's full of them. All right, so that's Candace. So this is the Persian Gulf, right? And this is the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran, it's a very narrow little bit of area here. And there are multiple oil-rich places here, right? So of course, Saudi Arabia on this side, and then there's United Emirates, also Qatar is here, and I want to show you another image here. But this is Oman is over on this side, but the United Arab Emirates can get out this way, right? They have, I'm sure, a port here, but still, they're firing on these. And I just watched the news this morning. So today's Wednesday, March 11th. This video is going up tomorrow. And, I'm going to show you a clip from last night where they were already, they're targeting ships here. And, ships aren't wanting to run through there, even though Trump's willing to pay taxpayer dollars to insure them. I don't even know what the fuck that means, but they don't want to fucking, get fired upon by missiles. And so all these countries here. So here's a more interesting image. This is Kuwait here, right? There's Bahrain, all these, there's, all the oil that's in Kuwait. And so, and if Iran is not producing oil, it's interesting that Pakistan's right here because India's on the other side. So, Pakistan could easily support Iran. Pakistan has nuclear weapons. And I don't know if, Pakistan would be more aligned with Iran, even though, Iran seems to not get along with anybody. And Israel's trying to create a relationship with India that has a war with Pakistan. Of course, Afghanistan's right there. So that gives a kind of perspective. But Iran's a massive country with a lot of resources and 90 million people, and and they have this. They're blocking this, and all these countries that are shipping oil through here. Iraq is right here. Saudi Arabia, but Iraq is right here, and so they have other ways of getting oil out, but some of it's going through there, and it's going to cause massive shortages and problems. And Trump is such a whiny little cunt. Trump, when he has these fits, he can't believe that everybody just doesn't go, "Oh, you're so brilliant, you're so great, we're just going to cooperate with you." Like, he never understands when people throw punches back at him. When he attacks Rosie O'Donnell and she goes after him, and he's like, "I can't believe she's still going after me." Like, he's always perplexed that people, get to hit back. Like, he thinks he can just say whatever and not get any kind of fucking response. Like, he can just say fucking shitty things to people, and then they won't say shitty things back. And he doesn't understand war, and that they're just going to cooperate and lay down and for the great fucking Satan and just do whatever he says, Israel and why the Iranian people aren't acting out more. Like, he's, and then he gets like butthurt and he tells them to go hit civilian targets and do shit, right? Like, he's a fucking, he's such a little baby. And so, they're going to do this, and America really doesn't have a fucking solution for it. They're dropping mines out in this very narrow area, and ships are just like, we're not willing to go there. Like, it's just, getting insurance from America does not, there's loss of life and there's all that shit, and, people aren't willing to risk it for this, right? So the oil isn't flowing, and then, whatever targets are being hit, and then all of a sudden gas is up to $10, and Trump is, there's a fucking revolt going on in America over this bullshit war that's for Israel with, and they won't give answers, right? And then when there's base, Trump, well, let me just, let's move over to this other thing here. But this is completely fucked, right? So this was from yesterday, and it's gotten worse. There's been 3 ships that have been damaged, and they were merchant ships. They weren't even oil ships. So the missiles are flying right there. And America doesn't have a solution for this.
Joining us, MS Now international reporter Inez de la Catera in Jerusalem, MS Now senior national security reporter David Rode, and UAE-based correspondent Inzamam Rashid at the Strait of Hormuz. Inzamam, I'm going to start with you because I think you have a little news to break here, and I want to make sure we get to it before this briefing starts.
Yeah, good evening, Katie. A significant development this evening as Donald Trump says that this war is nearly over. That is not the feeling on the ground here in the Gulf, because over the last couple of hours or so, out in the Strait of Hormuz, around 20 miles in that direction, I've been seeing a vessel burning, fire coming out of a vessel over the last couple of hours. No idea why that is, whether it has been targeted by an Iranian missile, something that we've seen happen here in the Strait of Hormuz over the last week. That's not yet been confirmed, or which vessel it particularly is, but there has been a ship in the distance to the very entrance of the Strait of Hormuz that has been burning for the last couple of hours or so. Then to my left, just around the corner, we see dozens, if not hundreds, of vessels, tankers, cargo ships waiting further back so they are not targeted, waiting to get access to go through the Strait of Hormuz. This, what would be usually a very busy shipping passage, has for the last week or so been completely blocked, in control by the Iranian military. Not a single drop of oil allowed to get through, as the Iranians have put it. And they've been very clear that anyone that does try to pass through will be targeted. And that may be something that we've seen once again this evening, something we've seen regularly over the last week. But I think this is really...
Okay, so, it's gotten worse today. 3 ships were fired on merchant ships, right, that weren't, didn't have oil. So, Trump would have to have a plan for this. Like, this is something I heard about. Like, I wasn't that familiar with it. I didn't realize all those countries that were there, right? Kuwait and all that stuff. That they would have to have a plan. Apparently, Saudi Arabia has a pipeline that goes to the Red Sea, and there's issues with the Red Sea, too, or whatever, some other, Like it's not like that's a solution. Like they're going to have to adjust to this, but it's going to decrease the amount of supply. And then prices, like for Trump to say, I thought it was going to get worse than this. You think the American people are going to go along with this? Because he's not being, Trump doesn't have anything to do with this, right? He's not calling, he's not knowledgeable. He isn't, making decisions. He's told what to do. They've allowed him to do his bullshit with the tariffs and things like this because they want him to bring down the country. They're giving him free reign to bring down, the civilization. There needs to be depopulation. They've known this for years. They won't say it. And so, but they know the American lifestyle is not sustainable. They know the population is just, causing issues and beyond what's needed. There's all these, what they call useless eaters, right? People who don't produce for the beastly system. So they won't call it population reduction, but they know there needs to be. And Trump is bringing that in, like they're using that guy to bring it in, right? And then there's the divine forces that are looking to, stop this demonic system. And so they're allowing these people that are controllers to bring it down, right? Self-destruction, because that's what's, necessary for the betterment of everything, right? So the system's demonic, and, Trump is just that kind of a boob to bring down the system because it's, arrogance and incompetence.
Important as well, Katie, because whilst the military aggression still continues, not at the rate that we've seen initially, particularly across the Gulf, yes, in Iran and back to Israel, it's still pretty intense, but it feels like the shift of this war is coming to here. The focus of this war is shifting to here on the Strait of Hormuz militarily, but also we know full well that the economic impact of what's taking place here is being felt around the world.
The U.S. has been targeting Iran's Navy, also targeting its missile depots. Why can the U.S., or why is the U.S. having such a hard time getting control of the Strait? What sort of assets does Iran have there?
Well, look, this is a very narrow waterway. We know that the geographical struggles that this plays in this region as a result of this waterway. Iran has got a number of facilities here. You've got to remember the way that this lies as well. It's the UAE and Oman together, and on the other side you have Iran, and effectively they've got ports, they've got navy vessels, they've got missile launch systems on the ground very close to the Strait of Hormuz that they could attack pretty much in seconds. We were getting some indication that potentially US Navy vessels and also European Navy vessels are on the way to the Strait of Hormuz to carry out these escort missions that would take some of these tankers that are parked up waiting to pass through the Strait of Hormuz and actually manage to get some of that oil to the rest of the world. That's not been confirmed whether that is something that
Okay, so as of today, they're reporting that that's not being done. Like, that's not feasible or whatever. America's, that's just bullshit stuff they're saying. And I'm sure they're worried that those Navy vessels will get sunk because they're, fucking, that's, the whole thing's kind of fucked, right? Like, Trump doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, and, like, he just expects things to go his way. And when they don't, he pouts and fucking whines and withdraws. He gets all his information from Fox News. He doesn't really listen to his advisors, because they're supposed to be yes men and telling him, he doesn't like to get bad news. He can't handle fucking stuff that goes against his worldview. Like, this is, it's a disaster. And, like, Iran can't win this war in terms of, like, destroying America or Israel. They're, at a disadvantage, but they can prolong it just like with Iraq and these other countries and bleed America dry with what's left of our treasure, what's left of our military. All these things, right? Russia sees that. This could be, another Afghanistan where you just never get able to get out. And you can't really, they'll never control all of Iran. Like, they're not going to control 90 million people. And then the kind of troops you need to do that. They can control a city, they can control areas or whatever. But, like, this isn't going to, Trump has no idea. Like, they have no idea what they're fucking doing here. And that's the point. Like, that's why he's the president. Like, he'll do shit. Like I was saying about Candace Owens, he's not an expert, right? He doesn't know anything about fucking geopolitics and war. Like he doesn't know anything. Like he's not he's a failed businessman, right? He's a grifter. Like he doesn't know shit. He's not curious. He doesn't know how to do shit. He's not good intuitively. He makes a lot of bad decisions. He's arrogant. Like he's just the worst type of personality to be a world leader. And and he's been given free reign to go and just fucking wreck shit and destroy shit, which he's good at, right? Okay, Morning Joe is showing CNN shit here.
I'm asking you about gas prices that Americans are paying that are extremely high and having wild swings, in part because of the war with Iran that the president started.
Right. So again, freedom is not free.
This has zero to do with freedom. How the fuck does the Iran war have anything to do with freedom? Like, Iran is not capable of taking our freedom away. The president is, right? I mean, freedom is, there's no such thing as freedom. Freedom is just in reality, the freedom they're talking about is demonic. It's the freedom to do what's wrong. You have a God-given right to make bad decisions, right? We agree with that. That God's allowed people to make bad decisions. You could have a situation where everything in the universe obediently obeyed God. And the God of the Old Testament is a petty little jealous piece of shit God. It's a demon, right? It's not really, this way that religion sucks and Christianity does, the Jewish religion, the way they think about God. I've talked about this so much in various videos. But, the freedom that you have is to, you have one right choice, which is whatever God wants you to do, whatever your soul wants to do. In every situation, there's one right choice. And that choice is to find out what God wants you to do and do it. Right? There's lots of good choices, maybe, but they're not necessarily, they're better than, like, anti-God choices, right? But there's a whole plethora of wrong choices. Some of them are good, some of them are, they're nuanced. But there's one right choice, and that's to find out what God wants you to do in every circumstance and do it. It's a discipline that most people can't even conceive. It's something that I've, been struggling with personally, right? Where you're turning over your freedom of choice. And even if you make, it's not about the choice you make, it's about how you go about making the choice, right? Like, so if you're going about a choice where you're, you might make the right choice, but you're not doing it for the right reasons. Like consciously hearing from divinity within and learning to follow the divinity within, surrender your egotistical pursuit. And so when people talk about freedom, that's freedom. But the ability to just do whatever the fuck you want, right? But that's within limits to any society because, freedom can't be murder, right? Freedom can't be rape. Freedom can't be stealing, right? So, there's limits. There's limits to even the most depraved countries. There has to be some kind of consequences and laws, right? And so there's no such thing as freedom. But like, Americans think this whole thing, well, we're free, we're not. You're very limited. You're free to live within the binary system, but once you're outside of that, there's consequences from the American system. But in that freedom, Iran has no power over it. Iran has nothing to do with it, and Israel does. Israel is clearly a threat to Americans' freedom, like what he's talking about here. And freedom isn't free? What the fuck are you talking about, right?
Americans are going to have to make some sacrifices, but we're operating.
No, we don't want to do that, right? Yeah, well, that we do. Like, that's true. Like, Americans do have to sacrifice because our lifestyle is not sustainable. Our lifestyle doesn't come from God. It's not divinely orchestrated. It's, it's a contrived system where other people suffer and nature suffers and the planet suffers to keep our lifestyle going. That's true. But that's not what he's talking about here. A war that nobody wants, right?
From a point of strength. Isn't it great that compared to what I was...
Woodcough, Russia told Trump it's not sharing intel with Iran. Oh, yeah, you believed him?
Growing up in the 70s, we were so dependent upon Middle East oil, but now we're the largest producer of oil in the world, that we're the second biggest exporter of oil in the world. So we're not going to be shut out economically from this. We at least have the oil here. Yes, it's a worldwide commodity, but this is one of the prices of war.
All right, so that's that, right? Like American people aren't saying you didn't take the temperature on that. You didn't think what American people are going to. I mean, it depends on how high the prices get, but it's also prices across the board. And when Fox News starts covering how this Iran war is a disaster for the American public, and they'll have to at some point, just like Charlie Kirk had to eventually turn on Israel, they'll have to turn on Trump because their viewers will be starting to get pissed off, and they're going to have to, they're going to have angry viewers, and the Fox News never really liked Trump anyway, and so, we'll see how that plays out. But when that happens, then Trump has no fucking support, and he looks like a complete fucking jackass, right, and complete moron, and that's going to be whatever it is. But freedom ain't free. And before that clip, there was this clip.
What just seems so insane based on what he ran on. I mean, this is why a lot of people feel betrayed, right? He ran on no more wars and these stupid, senseless wars, and then we have one that we can't even really clearly define why we did it.
It's Israel. It's Israel. They won't say it. It's just fine. I don't know if he goes on to say Israel. I mean, he's Joe Rogan is more apt to talk about than this dude right here. Look at this fucking dude. Look at this motherfucker. All right. So there's another video here. I mean, these people are starting to turn on Trump, and they were the big viewers. I mean, Fox News gets a bunch of old, these MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News. They get old people. They get people older than me, right? They get the least desired demographic because young people are a customer for life. Old people are, a dying audience. You have an audience that's literally dying. And, when they die out, there'll be no mainstream media. I mean, they'll have to drastically change it. It'll be something totally different. You won't be able to fund it, right? Unless it's government-funded media, because there won't be fucking, people don't watch this shit, right? They don't. Like fucking young people, they don't even understand it. Like, they don't understand what they're seeing. Like, Alex Jones and these dopes, Alex Jones tried to make his show look like a news show. They have a set and all that stuff, and he pays, he's getting government shill money. But there's a lot of people try to make their shows look like news. And young people don't understand this as turning on CBS News and watching Walter Cronkite or David Brinkley or stuff that I grew up with, right? They don't understand that as a way to get information. They don't really, they look at the news differently. And these people who are dressed up in suits and ties are just a bunch of fucking boomers, right? Everybody who's old is a fucking boomer. And, they have no interest in it, right? So here's more of that kind of shit.
Now, whether Donald Trump is, for some reason, being kept out of the loop on some of the details of the war in Iran, or is just generally out of touch with its details, or simply unwilling to acknowledge the tragic consequences of the war, is anyone's guess. What we do know, though...
It's anyone's guess. He said it. He's bored. He doesn't like listening to shit. He's not a wonk. He's not well-researched. You see it all the time. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He doesn't read. He says he's a Christian, but he doesn't have his favorite passage of the Bible. He's never read the Bible. He doesn't know anything about the Bible. He doesn't like to read. I mean, he's dyslexic. Yeah, I'm dyslexic, and I read, I have read. I don't read as much now, but, I read quite a bit, right? I like to read. And there's dyslexics that do. Trump just is not a curious person. He's a very shallow person, superficial person. He makes decisions on very limited information, and he's, you can see him when he's in these briefings. He doesn't know shit, right? People think he's a truther, but he doesn't know anything. Like he was being talked to. I showed that thing where I made up the term ghoulgasm when Dianne Feinstein had a ghoulgasm when Trump was going to give her everything on gun control because he had no idea what the Republican position was. And when he's talking about asset forfeiture, he's like, why would anybody be against it? And then they did it to him in fucking Mar-a-Lago, where they just steal your shit, right? And so, he doesn't know stuff. He doesn't know what's going on. And he expects people to just believe his narrative. He comes out and he just lies and, makes shit up. And he has no idea how the internet works and, people's ability to fact check stuff, right?
Is that his claims about the war in Iran have in some instances become so far-fetched and absurd that reporters are able to knock them down in seconds of questioning. More damaging, politically at least, to Trump As the human cost of the war grows, with 8 U.S. service members having lost their lives and more than 140 service members now injured.
Okay, so let's get to Trump doing this stuff here.
Donald Trump was asked about the bombing of an Iranian girls' school. 175 people were killed. Many of them were children. Multiple outlets report that the United States is likely responsible for that strike. But Donald Trump claimed that Iran might have used a missile created by the United States to strike their own school-aged children. Take a listen to what New York Times reporter Sean McCreish asked and Donald Trump's response.
Mr. President, you just suggested that Iran somehow got its hands on a Tomahawk and bombed its own elementary school on the first day of the war. But you're the only person in your government saying this. Even your defense secretary wouldn't say that when he was asked, standing over your shoulder on your plane on Saturday. Why are you the only person saying this?
Because I just don't know enough about it. I think it's something that I was told is under investigation. But Tomahawks
I don't know enough about it.
are used by others, as you know. Numerous other nations have Tomahawks. They buy them from us. But I will certainly, whatever the report shows, I'm willing to live with that report.
But I just made something up that totally serves me. Like, that's just, I don't know enough about it, so I'm just talking shit, right? That's he just admitted. Like her said, your guess is as good as mine. No, there's no guess here. The guy doesn't know shit. Like, he doesn't want to know shit. He's in Biden land. It's not like they withhold information. He doesn't want it. He doesn't listen to his briefings. He doesn't listen to his people. He said, I show that clip over and over again. The guy from Signalgate, who was in his moment of glory, right? The guy appeared for a week and was important. The guy who ran fucking the going out of business Atlantic, online magazine. And he was given access because maybe the guy works for Mossad or something. And he just decided to embarrass I don't know what it was. But he was invited into a top secret, classified, war plan meeting on Signal. And Trump said the guy left the meeting because he was bored. Like, he's like, it's boring. I said in those meetings it was boring. Like, fucking, he gets bored. He doesn't care. He's not interested. And then he just talks shit. He loves to talk. This is what he likes to do. He likes to hold court and talk shit and, make shit up. He expects people to buy into his shit. The guy just fucking embarrassed you because, you're making shit up. You just admitted you didn't know, and there's nothing there. Nobody even suggested it. Trump probably floated the idea, and then they'll go, oh, that's pretty brilliant. Maybe the Iranians did it themselves, and he's admitting that false flags happen, right? Like fucking...
I'll stop telling lies as soon as a report is shown to me, and then I'll just read from the report. Okay. The reporter there, again, is Sean McCreish from the New York Times, and he pointed out, importantly...
Here's the influencers.
Social media that the Trump administration must investigate and address the bombing head on. She called it a, quote, horrible unintended tragedy of this war, end quote. So on this question, at least, they seem to have lost Laura Ingraham. Tucker Carlson is a prominent critic of Donald Trump's war in Iran. He posted this scathing video. Watch.
The bombing of a girls' school next to an Iranian naval base that was apparently the school of choice for officers at the naval base. These were the children, the daughters of the people we're fighting. You have to believe that was accidental, despite the fact it was hit twice, 40 minutes apart. It looks very much like a double tap, which is to say a bombing and then an attack on the people coming to rescue the injured. But as an American, you have to believe this was a tragic mistake. But we have to verify.
You don't have to believe shit, fuckhead. What do you mean we have to fucking... We don't have to believe that. See, why do we have to? Is this about freedom? Is it about our freedom? We don't have to believe shit. Fuck you talking about? Fucking CIA working motherfucker. We don't have, as American, no, I don't have to believe this. I believe they fucking kill kids. Like, what, you read the Epstein files? You don't fucking believe that we kill kids? You don't believe that Obama drone kids? Like, fucking, they like killing fucking kids. You don't believe they were supporting Israel's killing 300,000 kids in Gaza? What the fuck are you talking about? You're a fucking worthless piece of shit, right?
Because if you wake up in the morning and you're living in the kind of country that thinks it's okay to kill not simply military officers, but their daughters, that country's not worth fighting for.
Oh, yeah, it isn't, Tucker? You fucking, you depressed motherfucker. It's not. It's not worth fighting for. It's not worth fighting for. Well, your lifestyle. You're fighting for your lifestyle. That's what they're fighting for. Freedom means your lifestyle. When they said, back in when in Iraq, when the first thing when 9/11 happened, George Bush said, "Go shopping." Like after 9/11, don't stop shopping. That's why when they closed down the economy for COVID, I said we've never done anything like that. It's always been about consumerism. And then they closed down the economy. And of course, now there's all these small businesses, all these things, all that shit gone out of business. But this is always this. This isn't about anything. When they say freedom, they mean your lifestyle. That's what this is about. These wars that somehow correlate to your lifestyle. But this war isn't the case because it's going to hurt people's lifestyle. Because oil prices are going to go up, and no one's been, this fucking war is going to be some bullshit false flag thing. And then everything's going to be fighting over that. The internet, people saying that this is bullshit false flag. This is Israel. Like the breakup with Israel, all this shit. That's going to affect your lifestyle when you break up with Israel. That's going to have a whole host of effects, right? Like you're going to see things like they've been playing, they're not going to go away quietly. They're going to cripple America as best they can because that's how they fucking roll, right? They're going to Charlie Kirk America. Anyways, this is where we're at. This fucking piece of shit, right? They're all just, you have to believe. Oh, fuck you, right? I decided to scroll through Twitter here, see if there's anything to cover. Trump just gave a press conference, and my wife and I were eating lunch, and Caroline Leavitt's face is so she had sunglasses on, and her chin, her mouth, she looks like a fucking ghoul, like she's just wrecked her face. She's like 28 or something. She's had I don't know how many plastic surgeries. So I'll cover that probably. I don't know when my next video's out. This video's going up, I think. I know it's going up. This video will go up on Thursday night, tomorrow night, and the next video after that will go up on, that's Saturday, so I'll skip Friday. And this was the first thing that Twitter recommended to me.
I've seen many times an image of myself in a bikini with the flag of Israel.
Okay, so why would you draw attention? I have not seen this yet. But, you've just made it worse. Okay, I haven't seen this meme yet. This meme. I'm that bitch. I'm that bitch. I'm that bitch. All right, so why would you bring this up, right? You're better off just not acknowledging this exists because it's not disappearing because you talk about it. I'm finding out because you talked about it, right? That's the way it is.
I could tweet this morning, "Good morning," and hundreds of anti-Semitic responses would immediately fill my social media.
Yeah, because, you're a bitch, right?
I get asked all the time because I'm a Christian, and they say, well, why are you so supportive of the Jewish people? I said, you can be Jewish, you don't have to have anything to do with Christians, but you can't be a Christian and not understand that your entire faith is built on the foundation of Judaism.
So, I am not nearly as knowledgeable a Christian as Ted Cruz. I mean, both these guys, Mike Huckabee. But I know a lot more about Christ and spirituality than they do, right? Talking about experts. And what he said there is totally not true, right? Because Christianity happened in despite Judaism. So Jesus didn't die Jewish. And they want to make it like he was still Jewish, and he wasn't. He was not a part of the Jewish religion. And why would there be a Christian religion if Jesus died as a Jewish person? So, I began as a Christian, and I transcended to become a spiritual person, right? The Sajmark system is not a religion. It helps people connect to the divinity within them. So it's a spiritual system, right? It's not an organization like these other organizations that are materialistic. It's a service-based organization until it was corrupted by this guy Kamlesh Patel, the Dodgy. And so, but one of the key teachings is, and this is a quote from Swami Vivekananda, who was a famous Indian saint, that a religion's a great thing to be born into, but a terrible thing to die in. And all these saints, all these higher developed souls began with some religious training, and then they found divinity within them as they became an adult, and they started their spiritual journey. So Jesus, left the Jewish religion. And it's a shitty religion, like they all are, and now Christianity is a part of that because they have taken back, they've merged their original creation story and all that other bullshit that Jesus wasn't, Jesus went to India and learned to yoga and these other things. So they won't acknowledge that because they're practicing a bullshit religion. So they know more about their bullshit religion, but they don't know anything about Jesus, his life, and his spiritual transition, right? You transcend your religion. You leave your religion behind. And so, that the fact that the Old Testament's part of the Bible means that religion's fucked. And the Old Testament's a fucked up book, and there's, all this fucked up stuff in it.
So for Christians, we look at this as an obligation, a moral debt that we must repay, and therefore,
what's the moral debt? The moral debt to David for slaying Goliath, David for cutting off 200 foreskins of Philistines when all he had to do was cut off 100, or Abraham almost sacrificing his son. Like what who is the moral debt to? To the religion? You owe a moral debt to another religion? You owe a moral debt to your religion. What the fuck are you talking about? I mean, you owe in a sense a debt to God. I mean, I don't want to call it a debt. There's no debt. God isn't a fucking banker, right? Only bankers create debt, right? Like, people like that, using banking mentality. People who want you to do something so you'll be indebted to them so they can fucking control you, right? People want you to feel obligated because they've done something nice for you. They helped you out, and then you owe them. Like, you ever have people do that where they, you're desperate, you need some help, and they help you, and then they're like, all right, now I fucking own you. You owe me a debt, right? So that's like, who wants to be indebted to anybody or anything? Like, you have an obligation to divinity, to God, right? The divinity within you, but it's not a debt. I don't want to call it a debt because it's not a debt. God's not a fucking banker. And so, Christians don't owe Jews a debt. That's fucking silly. I mean, it's really silly. Maybe Christ, if you really believe Christ died for you, which he didn't, but he left behind the spiritual teaching, which you have ignored, right? So that's, but it's not you have an obligation to pass it forward. You have a duty, right? You have, whatever it is, right? But debt is not the right word. That's is a financial word.
I don't understand anyone who says, I'm a Christian, but I don't really want to support the Jews. Well, how can you do that? But it is not the view of those of us who are what I would call biblical believers that accept that.
I think I covered this before.
Scripture says about the Jewish people in Genesis 12, those who bless Israel will be blessed.
You mean their own book says that? Their own fucking rhetoric with their demonic fucking God that they worship that's a demon? Their own book says that? Wow, their own book tells you your own book tells you this right here.
Israel will be blessed. Those who curse Israel will be cursed.
Oh, that's great. Like, their own shit. That's their own bullshit, right? Their book sucks. Their religion sucks. The way they portray God sucks. Their obsession with foreskin sucks. It's not anything there. It's like a piece of shit book. It's got zero value. It's got a negative value.
It gets pretty simple. I say there's a miracle every day in this country.
Yeah, the miracle is that like you somehow became fucking a famous politician, right? But I guess like when Trump is, president, anything goes. Okay, so these are the first 3 videos. I haven't watched any of them. Like, I'm just scrolling through Twitter. These are the first 3. Like, it's all this stuff now, right?
The chairman and I having just returned from Dover last night.
This is when an algorithm works. Like, it could be more specific to me, but, I've clicked on these things that they've shown me, so they show me more of the same things. But you got to understand how much this wasn't possible up until like last year, where people were openly talking about Israel's puppeting America. Like, that's now, it's okay. And people know it, like it's out there, right?
Our troops and their families and the enormous sacrifice that they make is certainly heavy
for Israel
on my mind. So I'll close with Scripture, drawing strength from Psalm 144.
Great, do it. You're such a great Christian. I mean, when I look at you, I'm like, this is motherfucker, such a great Christian.
Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. He is my loving God and my fortress, my stronghold and my deliverer, my shield in whom I take refuge. May the Lord grant unyielding strength and refuge to our warriors, unbreakable protection to them and our homeland, and total victory over those who seek to harm them.
Yeah, you mean the ones that are defending themselves when you're attacking their country? Is that what you mean? The innocent people over there in Iran who are being attacked by fucking Americans, bombing churches or bombing fucking girls' schools and then doing a double tap? I mean, is that being a good Christian, you piece of shit? So this is the fourth video. This is the one about Steve and Jared lying about, or Trump misrepresenting what they said about Iran's capabilities to make nuclear weapons, right? They just fucking out and out lied. And Trump is exaggerating it like always because he's a worthless piece of shit. This is evil. And, I am more generous because of my understanding about the system coming down being God's will. And he's doing God's will by bringing down the system, right? He's doing divine work. And so there's all these people are. Not intentionally, but, they're all demonic, fucking evil people. It's an evil thing that's doing something, destructive work. So there's that. But here,
the situation was very quickly approaching the point of no return, and the United States found it intolerable, in my opinion, based on what Steve and Jared and Pete and others were telling me, Marco, so involved, that I thought that they were going to attack us. I thought they would, if we didn't do this at the time we did it, I think they had in mind to attack us.
So Steve and Jared went over there to assess the situation, remember? They were in Israel. Jared ditched Trump after first term, but that's, because that's how Jared would go up and talk to somebody at a party and say, okay, I'm done talking to you. I need to talk to somebody more important than you. Like, he'd literally say that to people. Like, he's an evil fuck, right? Like, clueless evil fuck. And, none of those guys are intelligence officers. I mean, they're, these are, I'm sure Marco is like, the adult in the room. None of these, you were told you were told Israel's going to strike and you have no fucking choice. That's what you were told. You're a little bitch, so just admit it. Just stop talking like you're a man or something, like you have a set of testicles and you're out there on your own. You're just a little bitch out there just doing what you're told. Like, stop pretending like you're the decider, the chief. You're just being fucking puppeted, and you didn't want to go to war with Iran. They made you. Piers Morgan uncensored. They're letting Piers Morgan loose.
You say the Palestinians don't exist.
I didn't get to your
my ear. Point to my ear.
comment.
Your position is that the Palestinians don't exist. So what are they?
It's an invention. It's an invention that is not as secondary to the important fact that the Jewish nation, that the land of Israel belongs only to one nation, and this is the Jewish nation. The Palestinians are Arabs who try to compete with the big success of the Jews in the land of Israel. And actually,
You mean the success based in stealing American secrets and being funded by Americans and buying American politicians with the money that you get from American government and controlling things from America? I mean, that's success, right? Because Israel without America would be a flop, right? There would be nothing. You have no resources. You'd be a poor little country there where everyone hates you. So that's, look at this fucking dead fuck. Look at this, how dead he is. Look at these fucking ghouls. I mean, just worthless. She continues to fuck up her face, right? This is what I was talking about. Look at those lips. It's just all fucked up. Too much Botox. She's like 20. She's still in her 20s, right? She's 28, 29, something like that.
The president said yesterday for the first time that he had to strike Iran because he believes that Iran was going to strike U.S. targets within 7 days. And then he bumped that down later to 3 days. Where is he getting that?
Well, that's not the first time the president has said that he chose to launch Operation Epic Fury because he felt as though Iran was going to strike the United States and our assets in the region first. Again, I addressed this.
He felt. That's not factual. What he felt was Israel's going to hit them, and then once Israel hit them, they were going to hit American targets. No question. That was going to happen. So this was preemptive. Like, destroy some of their shit before it gets to hit America. That's what his thing, because Israel was definitely going to hit Iran. So fucking just say it. Marco Rubio said it. Everyone fucking knows that's the truth. Just fucking say it.
In the last briefing, this was a feeling the president had
It's a feeling. He had a feeling.
based on facts provided to him by his top.
Wait, there's a feeling based in facts? So if it was a fact, it's not a feeling. You can't have both, right? If it's a fact, that he knew that they were going to strike, the only reason he'd know they were going to strike is in retaliation to Israel. That wasn't they were like saying, hey, we're going to strike on Wednesday. We just got, why didn't they strike then? Like they could have struck any time. And so the feeling, facts, well, it feels a feeling based in facts.
Negotiators who had been engaged with the Iranian regime in a good faith effort. The Iranian regime was lying, deceiving the United States of America, clearly trying to continue their nuclear program to create a bomb that would, of course, threaten the United States.
Yeah, no one buys that bullshit other than dumb fucking Fox people who have no value. Like just, all these people are like marked for extinction. Like, not because I disagree with them or any of that shit. Because, like, how can you be this fucking brain dead? Like, what value do you have as a person? Like, what value? All these lying pieces of shit after the destruction happens, after you successfully wreck America, what value does Trump have? Like, what value? Like, what, when depopulation happens, the people who have value, in terms of the divine plan, the divine system, people who can, turn something negative to something positive, are the only ones who are going to be let back in. Like you're going to have massive population reduction, like I've talked about so many times in terms of reincarnation, which exists and is a true thing, and Jesus believed it, as part of what everyone believed at that time. It comes from the original religion that discovered the soul. It's the Hindu religion, right? Whatever, fucking, I don't give a shit, right? Like whether you believe it or not. But, if there's only 1 billion people here, and we reduce it like 6 billion people die, well, where are those 6 billion souls going to go? Like when there's only going to be, 100 million born every year, right? Like if you have massive die-off, and right now I think it's 140, it's probably even lower now. You went down to 130. For years it was like 144 million new births and 50 million deaths, but now it's like, the last time I checked it was 60, and I'll check again before the next clip. It was 60 million deaths a year, and it was like 130. So the ratio was getting smaller. And then pretty soon there'll be more deaths than births. And so, and there's going to be a massive amounts of deaths. And when that happens, where do those souls go? They ain't going to heaven or hell. Like, well, I guess hell is, someplace you can exist in hell on earth, right? But you're trapped here. You haven't passed the test. You haven't been allowed to leave. You're not coming back here. Where the fuck are you going to go, right? Like these people that are just, do damage.
United States of America. Again, their ballistic missile arsenal, they were rapidly and aggressively increasing that by the month to a place where they...
Yeah, because, you guys were mobilized outside their country. Like, you guys moved fucking warships outside, and you were clearly going to strike in Iran and Israel. Like, everyone knew this was going to happen. Why would that be fucking... of course they would want to increase their capacity to, whatever it is, right?
Would essentially build immunity for themselves where a future president or President Trump would not be able to launch this incredibly successful operation. And so the president, again, as I have reiterated and he has said, was not going to sit back and allow the Iranian regime to threaten or to attack the United States of
Because he had a feeling?
America any longer.
Because he had a fucking feeling based on facts? Just worthless. Like, fucking, what could be more worthless? Totally useless person. Your job is to actually inform, and you just say stupid shit. Like, it's embarrassingly stupid. Okay, look at this Republican closeted gay senator named Lindsey opening his mouth waiting for a dick to get... So I looked it up. There's 131 million births in 2025 and 63 million deaths. So I think the ratio shrunk a little bit. Like in terms of more deaths and slightly more deaths and slightly less births. But, eventually that ratio is going to be more deaths to births, the whole thing. Anyway, what do you got to say, Lindsey?
All
all the anti-Seminites, to all the isolationists. I don't.
Anti-Seminites? What's an anti-Seminite?
All the anti-Seminites, to all the isolationists. I don't. Forget it. I'm not with you. I'm with Israel. I will be with Israel to our dying day.
Yeah, exactly. You will be. Because how much money have they given you? Like, what have they done for you? Like, how much fucking dick they provide for you? I mean, I'm sure they've done a lot for you, and I'm sure they got shit on you, too. And so, you know, Lindsey, that's Lindsey. Okay, this of a human was saying he agreed with Max Blumenthal and everything, but that Trump was forced or coerced by Israel to attack Iran, and his reasons are ridiculous. And Max Blumenthal goes on a long list of things that we already know. I mean, it's admitted to. Everyone knows that Israel forced Trump's hand. But then he said this.
Trump. His advisors, Mike Waltz, his entire career has been backed by AIPAC. He actually, I leaked audio. I obtained leaked audio from a private AIPAC session in which.
Wait, you leaked audio? How did you get it? How did you get this from an AIPAC session? Who gave it? Who in AIPAC gave this to you?
The CEO of AIPAC, Elliot Brand, said, we groomed Mike Waltz and Marco Rubio from the beginning because they were in Congress. And John Ratcliffe, he mentioned John Ratcliffe, the CIA director. And we made sure that they were like good candidates, and then we've backed them since the beginning, and now they are in key national security posts. And
okay, so like this is just, I don't know how we got the leaked audio, but this is stuff we already kind of know happens. But it's still interesting. All right, so let me wrap this up here, unless something else happens tomorrow, because this video isn't going up till tomorrow night. I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to do a voiceover, and then I'll leave the end section here open. And I can add things at the end or in the beginning, depending on what happens or what doesn't happen. But either way, this video will go up on Friday night, and then Saturday there'll be nothing. And then, right, is that what it's going up on? This will go up Thursday night, nothing on Friday, and then a video on Saturday morning.
New images near the Strait of Hormuz off Iran, where new attacks are now sending oil prices on another wild ride today. This is a Thai-flagged ship, one of at least 3 vessels that have been struck today in that critical waterway. Thailand's Ministry of Transport says 20 crew members have been rescued. 3, though, remain unaccounted for. We're going to show you a map of the approximate locations of these attacks on ships today.
There's the fire right there.
In the strait. A reminder, some 20 million barrels of fuel a day move through this critical shipping route, and it is clearly effectively remains shut down because of this very real threat. Let's get right to Paula Hancock's live in Abu Dhabi for the latest on this. What are you hearing here?
Well, Kate, we just heard from the UK Maritime Agency, and they say that as of now, they believe that about 13 vessels have been impacted since this war started. Now, you mentioned that Thai-flagged ship. We have some more information on that as well from authorities. They said that there was an explosion at the stern and then a fire broke.
Right. Okay, so oil prices have risen. I remember them being at $200 a barrel at some point. I forget what that was. I might not remember that, but I think I used to talk about how opium is $200, whatever it is, a gram or 10 grams or something. And in terms of the war with Afghanistan over Iraq, Iraq oil is great, but opium is much more valuable, and they have lots of poppies in Afghanistan. But it's gone up to $87. It's going to go up to $100. I have a bunch of things to get to. It's still Wednesday night here, but this is, this is the big thing here, the Strait of Hormuz. And they knew about it. Well, let's go to the videos here. Trump was aware of this, or at least his administration were, because I knew. I knew because I saw somebody talking about this. I didn't even know there was a Strait of Hormuz. I didn't know any of these things. I didn't know nothing about this. And I've known about this for 6 months, that Iran, maybe all the way back to when he struck last year. Maybe they were talking about then. But, some time ago, probably, within the last year and a half, I heard about the Strait of Hormuz and that Iran could close it. And that would fuck everything, like the economy, oil, all these things. That would be a possible consequence. Iran might do this. This was a weapon that Iran could use to fuck the world economy and then, destroy any sort of credibility and goodwill for the United States for this war that all these other countries know that Israel, who nobody likes, is puppeting America, who, less and less people like, and that it's fucking all these other countries, and they're going to, there's going to be, there should be economic sanctions against America, like the UN and things like this. If it was any other country, they would, if Russia was doing this, or these, China or these countries. And so they're all pissed at this. And, there's going to be payback, and there's going to be problems here in America and globally. And it's going to send everything spiraling, and it has already, because it's fucked. And Trump, he whether he knew about this or not, his people did. And they don't have a plan for it. They're not prepared for this at all.
Broke out in the engine room. Now, this is believed to be where those 3 missing sailors were on duty at the time. So 20 rescued, interceptions. Dubai Airport, there were 2 drones that hit nearby. We understand that 4 people have been injured there. Authorities saying in the vicinity of Dubai Airport that fell. Flights have started to take off again now, though. We also know that in Bahrain, in Kuwait, in Saudi Arabia, they have also seen interceptions and alerts over the past 12, 24.
Right. So, Iran has got more shit. And they are, they're in Russia. I don't know if I told you, we saw this earlier. Russia told Trump, hey, we're not giving them targets, and Trump bought it. Right? Or whatever. This is bad. And when all of Trump's lies and his bragging and his bullshit, his delusional reality and where everything works out his way and that he's a winner and all this stuff is going to go his way, when people fucking see what's going to happen here, his supporters and everyone else, his administration is going to collapse. There'll be no support for it. The Republicans will bail on him, but the damage will be done. And then what do? Pull back? All these things, right? It's a fucking mess. Like, this is, it's the beginning of the end, right?
If they could get the prices of oil up, that the president would have to draw from the conflict. So just careful, guys.
Right. And he said they should go to strategic oil reserve. That's what Joe Biden did to get prices down without a crisis. The administration announced $20 billion maritime reinsurance plan. So he's saying, hey, guys, even though we get the oil, the market's flush, this is fear, I'm still going to insure your ships, so go through the strait. And, that's just part of it. If you want to diminish the Iranian threat, if you want to make sure that this ends up with complete Iran capitulation, sow some guts and go through that strait and do it.
Okay, so I don't know if he was quoting Trump there. It's what they, but there are all these, MS Now is quoting Brian Kilmeade quoting Trump. They show some guts and go through the strait. To these ships, like they're supposed to take the fucking risk. If you were on one of those ships, you want to go through and fucking with missiles and fucking mines and shit, right? Like, you want to do that with fucking, you want to take your ship out there? Just never mind your threat to your life, but also like, there could be environmental disaster there. That kind of shit. Like the fucking oil starts leaking. That fucking place is fucked, right? Not that that's going to play into this whole disaster that's Trump. He's falling apart, right? He doesn't, they don't have a fucking plan. They don't know what to do about the Strait. If your plan is that these ships should show some guts and run, they go really slow. Like you've seen ships, things don't go very fast in water. Even those speedboats, but like those ships just, they're like dinosaurs walking around, going like, 10 miles an hour or whatever it is. In a very shallow, tight area. And they're going even slower. And they got missiles flying at them and shit. Like, that's his plan.
Day 12 of the war with Iran. Here's where things stand. Quote, the president is scared.
Yeah, of course he is. He's fucking depressed. Look at the motherfucker.
That's how one Democrat, former Congressman Max Rose, describes Donald Trump right now as he tries to spin a spiraling war that has led to the deaths of 8 U.S. service members. And
eight guys? Like, you know, I mean, stop talking about it like that's the fucking, you know. I mean, 8 people, one person died, but like these people are dying in war all the time. And there was, you know, thousands of people died in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. I don't know, it was like 10,000 Americans and 1 million Iraqis, right? Like, you know, that's not going to get it. People don't give a shit about that. Well, some people claim to and they'll pretend, but what they give a shit about is inflation and gas prices and, you know, their lifestyle.
more than 1,200 people across the Middle East, including more than 100 children. Gas prices are right now $3.58 a gallon. That's according to AAA. And today, a leading lobbying group for American farmers is warning of a shortfall in crops and rising prices if the war continues. As for Donald Trump and his administration, they still have not settled on a single set of messages to explain why we're at war right now, what our goals are in the war, or how long.
Somebody needs to tell her about her hairdo. Like, I mean.
they think it will take to achieve those goals and how long the war might last. Writing for the veterans group Vote Vets, Max Rose writes this, quote, "There's a Bay of Pigs quality to all of it, not in the tactical sense. Our military is executing with extraordinary professionalism. The parallel is in the dynamic. A president surrounded by hawkish advisors who tell him, it'll be quick, the people will rise up, and you'll be a hero. JFK learned that lesson the hard way in 1961. Donald Trump is learning it now."
Yeah, almost nobody remembers the Bay of Pigs. I mean, it was before I was born. So, like, what the fuck?
There's brand new reporting in the New York Times today that reveals that Donald Trump and his team did indeed massively miscalculate how Iran would respond and react to the attack. From that report, quote, "On February 18th, as President Trump weighed whether to launch military attacks on Iran, Chris Wright, the energy secretary, told an interviewer he was not concerned that the looming war might disrupt oil supplies in the Mideast and wreak havoc on energy markets." Some of Trump's other...
You know, so like I said, I knew about this. And if I know about it, they do, right? If I know stuff about Strait of Hormuz, then they do. They knew this was a possibility, like the people in there. So either they're lying or they're, you know, whatever. They're pretending that that wasn't a possibility in their own minds collectively, which would be insane. I mean, which is worse, that they intentionally are doing this to fuck the American people, and they're doing this to break the American people and break the economy, or they just knew they kind of knew it was out there, but they just pretended it wasn't true because they wanted to fucking go, or they didn't have any choice because Israel's making it happen either way.
Advisors shared similar views in private, dismissing warnings that the second time around, Iran might wage economic warfare by closing shipping lanes carrying roughly 20% of the world's oil supply. That is precisely what we're living through. That is exactly what has happened and what is happening. Oil prices have soared as Iran seizes control of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran today shooting at 3 ships near the strait. These pictures show...
Yeah, we saw that stuff. Here's...
Oil supply. Claimed yesterday in a tweet that the U.S. Navy escorted an oil tanker through the strait, only to delete that post a little bit later. Donald Trump today threatened Iran with, quote, "death, fire, and fury," end quote, if the oil supply is threatened. Then today he told reporters that shipping companies should just, quote, "use the strait." That's after he told Fox's Brian Kilmeade that ships should, quote, "show some guts."
It's unclear if Brian Kilmeade was actually quoting Trump or not. So I think this is, you know, disingenuous. But either way, it's, you know, this is what's happening.
Just go through the strait. Does that sound like a president with a plan?
He's such a witch. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Wall Street Journal reports today that one unintended effect of the...
You know, this is where they're really, I mean, as ghoulish as they could possibly be, and they're really enjoying the demise of America. You know, what do you think? This isn't going to affect everybody? It's not going to affect Democrats just because Trump is shit in the bed? Like, you don't think this is fucking, you know?
War is that the brutal, cruel, and tyrannical Iranian regime that was sanctioned to the hilt and cut off from markets all around the world is for now empowered in selling its oil. From that Wall Street Journal reporting, quote, Iran is exporting more oil through the Strait of Hormuz than before the war, showing it is in control of a strategic waterway that it has closed off to the rest of the region's oil producers. As Gulf Arab oil producers from Saudi Arabia to Iraq cut production and scramble for new routes that bypass the strait, Iran is conducting business as usual.
And that's going to China. Like the oil that's supposed to go to China is going there, which is probably a good thing because China, you know, they don't have to fucking also retaliate towards America in some way, economically or something else. Like there's going to be a domino effect, and it's going to start fucking hitting the American people. It's already hitting. The gas prices are going up, but like, you know, something where it's like, holy shit, is this where we're going? And then panic and all that shit starts sitting in. I mean, Trump's like fucking clueless. And, you know, Israel, like I said, they want America to collapse. If America isn't going to support them, they don't want America, you know, they want to be the lone superpower. So, you know, I mean, it's unfolding just the way you knew it would because you know, Trump's a fucking complete bonehead. And this was never about any of the things that they're saying it was about. So, of course, it was going to collapse. Okay. So, today is Thursday, March 12th. This video goes up tonight. I don't think there's going to be anything else for me to add to this video other than this. Something might happen today, and I'll go back and redo this, but I'm probably just going to end the video here. And then you've got a voiceover comment from yesterday, and I didn't look at the comments yesterday. I'll do that this morning. But this happened, right? This is how tone deaf Trump is.
But has leveled parts of the southern part of that country. 13 dead in Israel alone. So amid all the chaos and death, how did our wartime president spend the afternoon? By palling around with internet personality and aspiring boxer Jake Paul in Kentucky. And, of course, dancing to the YMCA. There you go. At least he's having fun, right? He's having a good time. He seems to be enjoying himself. That's how the commander-in-chief is behaving during the war.
So that happened, right? I got another clip of this. Trump is doing the YMCA dance and palling around with Jake Paul. Like you couldn't get any more. But here's a little clip that I saw yesterday that came up. So here is the clip.
He's a piece of work. He a very tough cookie.
He's a tough cookie. Who is this tough cookie you speak of? Thank you for your service.
But instead of fighting like a guy his own size, he fights a guy who's like 70 pounds bigger, who won, he's like a two-time Olympian champion. He's this massive guy. And my friend is a guy named Jake Paul. And...
Woo! Woo! Are you fucking serious, bro? Like, it's just... I mean, it's just... Can you get any more clown show than this?
I said... And I'm watching. I didn't realize there was a slight size variance, like about 7 inches and about 70 pounds.
It's not 70 pounds. This is like a sanctioned fight. They have to be within the same... There wasn't that much of a weight difference. It can't be, right?
Guy fought like, I tell you what, he is courageous. He's an incredible guy. He's got a brand new, beautiful fiance, and you're not allowed to use the word beautiful when describing women anymore. It's the end of your political career, but I'll say it anyway.
You know what's the end of your political career is going to a rally in Kentucky whilst the gas prices are skyrocketing as you destroy the economy and the global economy and having an unnecessary war for Israel. Look at these fucking dopes in the audience, right?
She's beautiful. She just won the Olympic gold medal.
Woo! Thank you for your service, except she's not American.
Where is she? Where's Utah? Gold medalist. Boy, I tell you, she's strong. That means she's strong. You better be careful. She's a beautiful person, and she's a big, strong athlete. I watched her win that gold, and They have an expression, if that were a fight, they'd stop it, right? She's great. But Jake Paul is a
You
great
know, like one of Jake Paul's fights. If that was a fight, you'd stop it. Thank you for your service.
guy. And, you know, part of the deal is he said, do you mind if I do an interview with you? I said, Jake, I'm the president of the United States. I don't do interviews. Look at Joe Biden. He went 2.5 years without doing an interview because he was shot. But he was shot 30 years ago, too. He was no good. But I said, Jake, I'm president. How can I do your local podcast? But his local podcast is big stuff.
It's big stuff. He's got it's big stuff, his podcast. This Jake Paul, his podcast is big.
He's big stuff. Jake, you got to come up. Come here. Come
Come on, Jake. Woo. Woo.
This guy has got.
It's not even, I don't know how many people are there, but it's like, you know, people don't like Jake Paul, right? I think everybody kind of knows that. He's obnoxious. It's weird fight. Most people are like rooting for him to lose in this bullshit fight thing he did. They don't like the Paul brothers, right? I mean, they got an audience, but they're like, you know, and the kind of guy. This is. Are you going to draft Jake Paul in his audience? Like,
Woo. And he walked out with a broken jaw. Anyway, this was not the greatest fight, but you know what it showed? Lots of courage. Come here, Jake. Say it.
Yeah, what Mr. Trump has taught me is courage.
Mr. Trump has taught you. He likes to be called President Trump.
You know, we never back down from a fight, even if they're much bigger than you, much, much bigger than you. And I feel all the local Kentuckians feel the same way. You guys have that fight.
You have that fight, you know, but with Iran, you talking about Iran? You're talking Iran would be would be in a lower weight class, right?
You guys have that swag. There's a lot of young kids in here. The future of America. I grew up just a few hours away from here, and my dad taught me to fight. And all of our voices matter in America. And I'm never afraid to speak the truth, and I know you guys aren't. We are here representing the United States, and it's just a blessing. Thank you, Mr. Trump. We need more factories like this thriving all over the country, and I know he's going to be the one to bring that here to us. I know God is with us. I know he wants us on the right side of history. And everyone here has to do their part. And God.
Jesus fucking Christ.
God's got us. Trump's got us. God bless. Love you, Kentucky.
Woo!
No, he's a great guy. He's a courageous guy and a talented guy. He's a hell of a fighter, too, by the way. And I just want to say, I'm going to make a prediction that you will be, in the not-too-distant future, running for political office. Okay? And you have my complete and total endorsement, okay?
Yeah, well, that's great, and that's just a wonderful moment. Like, you can't get any more fucking tone deaf than this, and, like, it's not big news. Like, you know, that was at the end of that Chris Hayes segment that we saw. You know, like, Chris Hayes is shitting on this, and, you know, Trump doing the YMCA goofy dance that he does where he's pulling on his strings to a hoodie and, like, fucking, you know, people were imitating that shit. I mean, this is why America's collapsing. Like, there's people out there. And, like, this is, you know, I mean, it's so WWE. His brother Logan Paul does WWE. So Trump knows him from that. And, you know, that whole fucking, you know, bullshit thing that happened. So that's where we're at, right? This is America right now. So, all right. Let's get into the voiceovers here. I just want to add one thing here. Him saying that Jake Paul will go from fake boxer, you know, WWE brother, to politician, right? You know, what is his qualifications to be a politician, to make decisions for other people? Like, what are his qualifications? Being an obnoxious, unlikable podcaster and YouTube creator, right? That's, you know, he should be. Let's make him president. Like, just okay. So, I hopefully have posted some clips of me, you know, of our pasture in the wood that I, you know, have to cut because of I started cutting it with the chainsaw and fucking, it started to rain, and the chainsaw chain had fallen off, so that delayed me. If I hadn't had to fix the chainsaw, I would have been able to. It didn't matter because the chainsaw was out of oil, and when I fixed the chainsaw, I checked the oil, so it's a whole thing. But anyways, it's pouring outside, fucking weird shit. I wanted to say something more about this incompetence. I had better examples when I thought about this last night. So, I don't make tutorials on how to make videos. Now, I do video making professionally, but I am certainly not an expert at Premiere Pro. I'm not an expert at Photoshop. I can use them, but I'm a beginner. Like, I don't make tutorials about how to do things, and I watch other people's tutorials to tell me how to do things, right? When I, don't understand how to do something in, one of the Adobe products or any of these other things, right? I don't teach video people how to make, I'm not a video teacher of how to make videos. I'm a content creator based in my, what's become my expertise in all of the things that I present that I've been right about over and over again. But, it's because I have some abilities and I've developed them and the spiritual stuff and all the other things, right? This is my job and this is what I put my energy into. And so there's some level of, expertise, and I don't like experts. I've talked about that before, but whatever you want to call it, professionalism in what I do. But there's lots of people who are newbies, and they think that when you're a newbie, you can pretend to be an expert because like fucking slightly more than the average person. And that's, that's just wrong. These arrogant people, and you see them all over the internet, that come out. When I lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico, there was two female gurus in Santa Fe. Like, Santa Fe is a place where there's mostly white people. Like, New Mexico is, I think, a third white people, a third Native American, and a third Hispanic. Back when I lived there. I don't know what it is now, right? And there are places where the white people live, and Santa Fe is one of them. And there's a lot of these trust funders in these various places. Boulder, Colorado is a place. I've not been there, but I've heard about it, and Santa Fe, where, it was mostly women. And it was mostly divorced women who married like rich California men. And then they got divorced and they bought some nice house in Santa Fe, and they were part of this women's-based community, which I interacted with, a little bit, right? And, not pleasantly. I went to school there, and, the majority of my classmates were women, liberal women, and, it was a whole thing. And they were not as bad as liberal women are now, but, they were not great, in their way. And even though there are a lot of spiritual things there, the Sajmark system never took off. I was there for a number of years, and, I wasn't good at I'm not a person that's good at getting things out, and there was no internet back then in presence of the internet. This is, the early the late 1990s, 1996, 7, 8, 9, 2000, and then, moved out of there in 2000. And so the internet was not much of a factor back then, and Sajmark didn't have much of a presence, and there was no advertising, so you had to put up flyers. And, in terms of any of that, there wasn't a lot of people who started. But there were some gurus that were successful, and they were women gurus. One was named Amaji, and she came from India. She was an Indian woman. She was big on hugging. And she had, according to I was renting a room from some guy who lived there for a while, and he had gone and seen both these women. One was called Amaji, and one was called Gangaji. Gangaji was a woman, I believe, from Tennessee, and she went to India, and a guru said to her, "You are that." And she contemplated him saying that to her, what that was. She meditated on, "You are that. What am I? What's that?" And at some point, she figured it out and came back to America and thought that was sufficient spiritual experience to start her own little cult, guru thing. And she spoke in this way like it was a total act, like I saw her speak, like maybe in video. Maybe I don't never saw her in person. But, it's just performative, and, she wasn't ready to be a guru, right, just because she meditated for a little bit, and, she got a little bit of a following. Amaji, I was told, had better energy. She was based in India. She's sort of famous in India, but not really, they don't teach a method. I mean, more of a fraud. But, God will be with you when you're talking about God. Like, people make the mistake of thinking that a godly person, like David Koresh had some talent, but, he was also psychologically fucked up, right? And there are moments where God would come through him and people would think that that's all there is. And it's a huge mistake because it happens with people all the time. They have their godly side, and just because they have their godly side doesn't mean that's permanent. And people forget they have to keep on working at it and keep on evolving, both the people that follow them and the people that lead. So they make a mistake of having one experience. Some people have great experiences in church with their religion, thinking that that's it. Like this has got to be all there is. And no, there's a lot more. Your religion, you can have religious experiences, spiritual experiences in your religion. That doesn't mean it's the best system. And so, you always have to be evaluating it and realizing that people could fall. Kamish Patel was quite spiritual as a preceptor, and people who went to him as a preceptor loved him. And I had some good experiences with him, but he fucking folded like a card house when he became a master. So this is, it's not a permanent state. You're either moving forward or you're moving in reverse. But you have these people who, pretend to be something they're not, or think they're more advanced than they are, and so there's that. You have to have a realistic assessment of what you have to offer, and people want to be, like in the spiritual realm, people want to be something. They want to have a title, like in material success comes with titles. This is my degree. I got this. I went to this university, and this is, I have this viral video. I got this, things. Look at my car. Look at my wife. Look at my husband. Whatever it is. Ways of showing that you're successful. Shit you show off on social media. People. I'm not a piece of shit. Look at this. Look at my car. All these things. In the spiritual world, there's really no titles. Like, you're either of use to people or you're not. You're either doing God's work or you're not. Really it's of use to God, and then people start to recognize it. And then you gotta just not worry about how great people tell you, or not think about how great people tell you you are, or whatever else, good, bad, and the ugly. Because you always have to be improving. Like, you always have to be, moving forward. And, you see this with these spiritual gurus. They think that they've made it or whatever. I looked at a Gangaji video, and, she has her guy was named Babaji, but it's a different Babaji. There's a few gurus that were named Babaji. The guru, there's a lot of Babaji, Babaji, but Babuji is, with the U, is how it's spelled Saj Marg. But, she was talking about something the guy said to her. And that's her big thing. Like, he said these were something about, we're here to love each other. We're here to love each other, or something like that. Like some remedial thing. She's talking about how profound that is. Words don't mean shit. I work with words. I hear words all the time, and words don't mean anything. Like, I don't want to hear words like, and words are, you're great. Your words are great, right? Your beliefs are great. What kind of person are you? What do you do? What's your action? What are you, what are you about? Like, what are you? Like this kind of thing. But for a guru, and this is what the Saj Marg system clearly has, this is why I compare this to everything else. Saj Marg has a method for you to reach the same goal as the master of the system. So, how did you reach your goal? Like, did you hear some words? What got you to where you were? Like, what was the path? What was the spiritual journey? What happened internal to you? All these things, right? And, can you document that? And do you have a method? And can you help other people achieve the same thing? This kind of thing. A lot of these religions, they don't have a clear-cut path. Like Christianity, it's not a clear-cut path on how you get to heaven. It's, it's very vague, and it's not realistic, and it's, and all of it. Like, I've talked about this quite a bit. How do you achieve something? And what does achievement mean? And how is it, how do you internalize it? Because spiritual achievement is inside. It's not external, some kind of medal that you get or something that you get. It's not some kind of accomplishment. It's internalized. It has to be something internal. And so, when I think about what I do here and whatever, services that are here with the Gratefulness meditation, people I think that they're doing me a favor. I had this one woman, older woman, and she was upset about me saying something about the flat earthers. And I ended up banning her, and she wrote me a long fucking email. Her name was like Grandma Knows or something like that. And she wrote me this long email, which I really, I don't read shit, especially when people are, dumping their shit on me. And I blocked her on the email then, because that's how I roll. But, I'm not looking for, I'm not here to be your fucking, whatever it is. But she said, I started Heartfulness because of you. And I'm like, when did I tell you to do that, right? How are you doing it for me? The Sajmark meditation is, to me, a complete gift. My brother, without anything that that's happened between us, he always says he's grateful I told him about Sajmark because it transformed his life. He's still he's a dodgy person now and all that shit and this, whatever. But, he recognizes the value of what I did for him, right? I don't look at it like that. I don't think he owed me something or whatever, but he always was grateful, which he should be. But then on my end, it's just, I did what I should do is tell people about it, right? And so, I don't consider that people owe me something, but it's something valuable. And the information that I deliver here is valuable. I don't beg for people to subscribe, and I don't want people to watch videos if they don't like them, right? If it's not helping them. But the people that, get something out of this or get something out of the Gratefulness meditation or whatever, it's not, you're not doing it for me. It's like it's helping me out. Like you're getting something great, right? Like the people who understand it and see it, you're getting something great. Like Candace Owens wants to be the #1 podcast. And, that's okay. That's great. If you're not going to be spiritual, you should be successful. But what she'll do to do that and manipulate her audience and, clickbait and all that shit and put out inferior, dishonest content, right? That's where the problem comes in. It's not my problem. It's her problem. It's, she is willing to compromise to get, fucking extra dumb fucks watching your videos. Why would you celebrate dumb fucks watching your videos? You're proud of that? I want to get rid of the dumb fucks. I want to get rid of the people that don't get it and don't have any chance of getting it, right? You don't get it, you're never going to get it, you never had it, you never will. I don't want those people. That's not a badge of honor, right? That would be, if I found out my audience was all dumb. Sometimes when I get messages or things like this and, I'm like, do you understand my videos? There's things that are said, comments, do you understand? You don't seem to understand what I'm doing here, which is not great for me, right? I don't expect people to understand everything because it's, the spiritual, there's things there to take some time and experience and things like that, in terms of your own spiritual journey and these other things and maturity. But, at least get kind of a sense of it, right? And that, I'm not here for people that don't understand shit or don't want to or, whatever it is. I'm not here to recruit Trumpers or, win these people over just so I can get views. I could make content for dumb fucks and do better financially and be, in better standing with YouTube, be more whatever it is. I could go on the right or the left and, take some, so that's where all the numbers are. That's where all the, money is. But, that would, I don't, like I said in the video yesterday, I got to believe in what I'm doing, so it's, you should feel good about your work, whatever it is. You should feel good. This is not proud. I don't think pride is a good word, but, that you've done a good job. That you can always do better, but you're producing, something quality, especially something where it's content and affects people in various ways, and that it has something, worth something. It has something that humanity can benefit from, something to make the world a better place. So, anyways, I fixed, I cut out, I had the chainsaw for a little bit, and it started to fucking pour. I guess it rained really hard. I cut up a couple pieces of the wood, but I didn't get a chance to move them with the tractor. It's a fucking mess out there. But, the wind that swept through, I felt it was cleansing. I felt something good about it. There was something there. It's a, material thing, but it's it was cleansing. I don't know how else to put it. We have the spiritual cleansing and something that was, You know, at least on a personal level, whatever that means. Anyways, I may do some comments tomorrow. It's about dinner time here, and I'm pretty tired for whatever reason. But I'll complete this video tomorrow in case there's something big that happens. I'll add something to it since it's the last video of the week, or the last video for, you know, there won't be a video on Friday, so, you know, you get the idea. You know, there might be some big fucking story, and I'll just wait to see what happens. All right, because there's always that potential. There's some big thing. Okay, so it's Thursday, March 12th. I just had one comment to get to, and I'm going to wrap this one up. So somebody wrote this. There's a few comments that I've gotten recently about the amount of commercials. You know, there's these troll narratives that come in. Like, you know, AI generated, I don't know what it is. You know, all of a sudden it's about commercials. Like, you know, I don't hear anything for months, and then all of a sudden there's something. But this person wrote, Trump's cabinet, a gaggle of dumb fucks. Trump kicks Tucker out of MAGA. Wow, what happened to this channel? I don't know. What happened to it, bro? All you do is talk, and I tried to be funny. Well, don't try to be funny, bro. It's not. You're not funny. Yeah, and he meant to say "and tried to be funny," but somehow he wrote "I tried to be funny." All you do is talk, and I tried to be funny. It's very annoying. No wonder why I stopped watching this channel, and it wasn't even half as bad as when I stopped watching it over 5 years ago. It takes you 2 hours, 2.5 hours. He wrote out 2 hours, TWO hours, and then the number 2 with 1/2 hours to get through 10 minutes of information. So my number one thing about this is, why are you fucking watching? Right? Like, why would you watch 2 hours if you didn't think it was funny and you didn't think there was much information in it? That you went away 5 years ago because it was bad, not half as bad as it is now. You know, why would you come back? And then why would you watch all 2.5 hours? The only way that you could glean that there's only 10 minutes of information stretched out over 2.5 hours in the video. The only way you could glean that is by watching the whole thing, or at least going through it and watching bits and pieces of it, right? And, you know, that's not accurate because, I mean, in the 2.5 hour video, there's going to be multiple subjects in there. Multiple different video clips of totally different things, like you guys who watch the videos know. But the reason I'm talking about here is because I've heard this kind of comment, like, in the past 10 years, hundreds of times, exactly the same way, right? And, you know, you could say it's formulaic, almost robotic if it's a bot comment. I don't know why there would be a singular bot comment like this that, you know, doesn't really address anything other than, you know, there's no subject to it. There's no context to what isn't funny, you know, what jokes weren't funny, you know, what things, you know, just overall, it's not funny. And that there's a lot of talk about things that are the same thing over and over again. There's no, you know, there's no specifics in it, right? Like, there's lots of these types of comments. Like, what's your actual problem? Why are you upset? Why are you butthurt? Why are you leaving this comment? What's your goal? What's your purpose? You know, like, I totally get people not liking me or the content. Like, I understand that as a, you know, as a not only a possibility, a reality. Like, that's going to happen. People come and they're like, this is not for you. And, you know, I see videos like this all the time. And my reaction is, you know, going to turn it off, right? I'm not going to be watching something for 2.5 hours I don't like, you know. And I'm certainly not going to leave a comment. Like, why would I? You know, just to make somebody feel bad, or, you know, that's, you know, like telling somebody they suck because, I mean, not only was it, you know, you don't want to form some kind of relationship where, you know, you're interacting then. You're interacting with something that's a waste of your time. Like, there's lots of stuff I don't like. That's what I would consider bad content out there. I don't need to tell people it's bad. Like, why would I? Like, I have no desire to do that at all. You know, if I wanted to, I could cover it here in more detail, and I could show you why I think it's bad, which I would do with some level of, this is my opinion about this thing. I can show you clips of it, whatever it might be. And so, occasionally I'll do that. When I feel like it's the audience would, be interested in me saying that it has some kind of point about it, right? There's some reason for it. Like, that video that I covered with that girl who thought she was awake, and she was saying that she was a truther. She's, I'm awake, and she's talking to these people like, hey, when you're awake like me, and all that shit. And she's wearing a Hooters hat and saying dumb shit, right? Like, there's all these people. And, there's a clip I'm going to start off my next video with, at least, today, because the video's not going up till Saturday, so I got a couple of days. But it's, Ari Meebla covering Jeffrey Epstein's timeline. And, I've been talking about Candace, Owens, and these other people who are late to the party, who were, are saying things that were being said by me and other people 10 years ago, or whatever it might be. Tucker Carlson, these other people. And, the mainstream media, like, this is mainstream media, famous people, even networks now getting into things that they would laugh at years ago and dismiss, right? And, there's no accountability for that. Like, people don't, I talked about this personality type. My brother had it. My ex had it, where they would come in really passionate about something. Like, something had to be a certain way, and they're all passionate about it, and this is the way it is, and this is the right way to do it, and this is what I believe. And you don't see them for like 6 months. And then in that period of time, they've completely reversed themselves. And they agree with you, like if you argued about it. And they're admitting you're right, but they don't admit you're right and say, hey, you were right all along. And then they're telling you about it, like they're introducing you to something that you were arguing about 6 months ago, and they were like 100% passionate about it. Like, these people have this personality type. They're never wrong. Like, they're just, now they know more about it than you did. Like something that happened 10 years ago, that they finally are coming around to it, and they're telling you about it, like they, and like I keep on saying, do you think I've stood still in the past 10 years? Like, so, if this was where I was and you were on the wrong side of it, years and years ago, and now so many years have passed, and I've, been evolving as as my understanding of things. And, why wouldn't you ask me? Like, why would you be telling me like you're the expert, right? And so this is, the condition humanity has, where, people would be coming out and saying now they realize about Trump, or they realize about this, or realize about that, and they don't think about, well, this person must know more than me. Like, this person must be ahead of me in some way. Like, they just, and I'm not talking just about that personality type. That's human beings in general. Even if they come around and they can admit, hey, you were right and I was wrong. Like, that just almost never happens, right? One of my first introductions to the truth community, there was a guy who's I was friends with on Facebook, and he was kind of a prepper, living off the grid type of person. And he was talking about how, like, people think wherever they are is, the sweet spot. Like, that's, people who are unaware and, are not awake are sheeple. But people who are more extreme than you are crazy nut jobs. They're just, and there's always this kind of, wherever you are is the optimal. I mean, that people think that that's just being a reality-based person, right? You're just in the perfect sweet spot. And, people don't think about there's more to go. Like, there's just always more to go. Anyways, let me wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's paramount, definitely important for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.